All right, and we should be live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a really special weekday live stream this time. I'm here with Nick from Divi, one of our sponsors for this channel, and we have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about meme coins that I know some of y'all love out there. We're going to talk about challenges facing beginners and what Divi is going to do to solve some of those. We're going to talk about Elon Musk, some people's sweetheart, other people's villain. Whether Nick is bullish or bearish on the markets right now as Bitcoin retakes 40K. Talk about his view on some regulations around the world, like the G7, El Salvador, like Texas, India. There's a lot there. And then finally, some more about Divi. But before all of that, Nick, welcome to the show. And I'd love to hear real quick a little bit more about you and just a high level about Divi too.
Sure. Well, first of all, Kevin, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Divi. Well, first, myself, I've been in the space about 7 years now. I actually first purchased Bitcoin to make a purchase of Ethereum first. It's kind of a funny story, actually. I basically met up with a friend of a friend at a mall, and we didn't have any way of really getting onboarded back then. There was no real like Coinbase or anything like that existing yet. So I had to meet this guy in a mall. Felt very much like a drug deal or something. And pulls out this huge laptop and actually showed me how to set up the Airbits wallet. Was the first wallet I downloaded on my phone, and it was an interesting experience to say the least. Even more interestingly, he eventually sold some Bitcoin to an FBI agent and landed himself in the
Oh,
clink.
wow.
Yeah, so but an early martyr to our cause, I think, right?
Exactly.
And he vehemently was against Ethereum. He was like, "Do not buy Ethereum. It's a mistake. It's a shit coin, whatever." And of course, I ignored that. And of course, back then, I think ETH was probably around 80 cents. So a pretty good decision overall, although it was a little bit scary to get involved with in the first place. I'd say now newbies have a much better onboarding experience with still a lot of room to grow, but definitely not meeting people in malls anymore.
For sure.
And that's kind of what Divi is here to do, is make cryptocurrency more accessible, easy to use, and maybe most importantly, easy to earn. So we launched a desktop app back in 2018 that allows people to set up what's called a Divi node or a master node at the click of a button, one click, taking a very complex process and making it something that is easy enough for anybody of any skill level to do. That's kind of the philosophy around Divi, and that's the technologies that we build try to adhere to that philosophy without sacrificing the decentralization that makes cryptocurrency and blockchain so unique.
Exactly. And honestly, like helping beginners and helping getting adoption in this space is ultimately what I think is one of the most important things to like get us to where we want to go as an industry and a space. But definitely going to ask you a lot more about Divi and the exciting stuff there. But let's start with meme coins, which is what a lot of people want to hear about today, right? I mean, we saw a couple months ago, everyone was all about those meme coins. It started with Doge, and then it was like Shi, Bakita, Hoj, Poodle, and a lot of other ones, right? They rocketed, some of them multiple times, and then now dropped down quite a bit. But just want to get your take on meme coins in general, your experience, the future, what you think, anything you want to share in this topic.
So, meme coins have obviously been around for a really long time. Dogecoin being the first, and probably the most ultimate meme coin. It was actually started as a joke, but of course it's gained popularity. It actually pumps here and there. It's always pumped prior to bull markets and things like that. Some people see it as a signal that a bull market's on its way, but this is unprecedented what's happened to Doge recently, and we can talk about that more. But I think meme coins, they're a double-edged sword, right? Because they attract a lot of people to the space. It's really accessible branding. People can adhere to a cute dog or a cute cat or whatever the case might be. It makes sense to them, right? And we've talked for a long time about like the disruption of value in cryptocurrency and how we're really just putting value on something and making consensus around it. It doesn't even need necessarily utility. A lot of these meme coins are essentially useless, but because the branding is there and because the community is there, they generate value. So that's a good thing. People are starting to learn that value is based on consensus, not based on federated or centralized,
Right.
commodities or what have you. So that's interesting. However, there is the other edge of that sword, which is a lot of these meme coins won't last forever. They won't even last till the end of the sentence. Some of them, but so a lot of them, a lot of the investors that are getting in as a result of the meme coin trend are at risk of losing their money, which is a bad look for the industry and can sour people on crypto. I know
Exactly.
when I got into crypto, when I got into ETH at 80 cents and it went up to $20, and then the Dow hack happened and it crashed back down, I was really sour. I was like, how could this happen? I thought this was, the next revolution of money or whatever. Of course, it was incredibly nascent at that time and still is. And I learned a lot more as a result of that. So you have those people that they have the drive to move past the loss, but there will be a lot of people that just say, oh, it was a scam all along. And, I'm moving on from that stuff. So that's the risk
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, and one thing that I've always wondered about meme coins, I'm not sure if you have an opinion or some details about this, is it's so easy to fork, right? Like you can literally take one, copy it, launch it, and like rename it to whatever new dog name or whatever new Elon related name out there. One thing I was wondering is like some of the teams are bold enough to reveal their identities. Do you think that's like any repercussion is going to face them in the future? Because technically they became like millionaires just by printing those.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely painting a target on themselves. Just like in the ICO era, you had a lot of fake teams, you had a lot of anonymous teams, and then you did have teams that made themselves public, which does open you up. But if you are intending on building a real product, and you have a true use case, or you have a true brand that you are, willing to put your time and effort into, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, the people that are painting targets on their backs and don't deliver, they're running the risk that maybe they did offer unregistered securities, and we'll find out about those things later on. Typically, these regulations and these regulatory bodies like the SEC and the FTC or whatever, they take a long time to catch up to what's happening. I mean, it wasn't until I think like a year or 8 months after EOS's ICO that they actually ended up getting hit by the SEC, and of course they paid a modicum of their of their actual raise to settle with the SEC. So I think there's a lot of that going on too. It's like, well, if we can make enough, we'll just pay the fine and move on. It's kind of a ask forgiveness strategy rather than a ask permission strategy.
I think you're absolutely right there because I saw someone make a joke that the SEC should change their logo from an eagle to a turtle or a sloth. Because, like, if you remember BitConnect, like, just recently did they charge the promoters of it? We're like, we don't even remember this. It was so long ago. And now they're like charging the top promoters of it. So, with these meme coins, like you said, it might not be years until we even get like what they want to do in terms of enforcement or regulation
That's
on
right.
this type of
Yeah,
stuff.
we thought they'd come after Trayvon and the rest of the BitConnect promoters like immediately because it was so obvious to all of us. And you have to wonder, if what Elon's doing is above board or if they'll come after him at some point over this because he is so public and so clearly, attempting to manipulate people. So I wonder, how that'll all play out. But it's always an interesting day in crypto.
It is, and it seems like some people never learn. I mean, we saw like John McAfee get like the hammer placed down on him by the SEC, but then now we see like Soldier Boy just like I don't know if you saw he copy pasted a promotional theme from one of these meme coins, and people were like, "Hey, you forgot to delete the sentence," or it was like, "How much they'll pay you for this."
Yeah, I did see that, but at least he disclosed it. I mean, that's the main thing. A lot of these guys. I mean, Mayweather, he just got the ban lifted on him. I don't know if you remember back during the last bull run, DJ Khaled and Mayweather both promoted these other coins, shit coins,
Yeah,
and they both got hit. with fines, and then they were both banned from promoting these assets for like 2 to 3 years. Mayweather's, as soon as his was lifted, right before the Logan Paul fight, I don't know if you saw
I
it, but he
did.
shilled another coin,
Ethereum
and I was
Max,
like, "Did
yeah.
you learn nothing?" Like, these guys, they don't care because the fine is so minuscule comparatively that
Uh-huh.
it's like, whatever, I'll just pay, the
Exactly.
500 grand or whatever, and I'll take the 2 million that I got from not only the payment, but of course they're getting a whole bunch of coins that they can sell too. It's something that I think will change over time, but the government moves slow as molasses, so we'll see.
Here's a great question from the live chat. So Doge, right, the father of all these meme coins, whether or not you like them long term, do you think Doge will be able to reach their $1 target? That's been the target for the past like few months or year per se.
I didn't think that they would get to 40 cents or whatever they are today. Anything is possible in crypto. Now, the main thing that people ignore about these big meme coins, Doge included, is the tokenomics, right? There are billions upon billions upon billions of these coins in the ecosystem, so increasing the market cap is increasingly difficult. The more people that buy into it, the harder it is to move it up. So right now, it's been hovering. I didn't check to this morning, but I know it's been in that 30 to 40 cent
Exactly.
range.
Exactly.
I say, I'm not invested in Doge. I don't really have too much interest in it, to be honest. But why not? I mean, if it could get to where it is today on essentially just hype, why can't it go another 2x? Anything
Uh,
can happen in this space.
I'm with you too, and I have to eat some crow too because I made some videos like years ago with Doge as the example, saying like they're crazy to think $1 is possible because that would make them like as big as Bitcoin at that time. I mean, Bitcoin has gone
Right.
even higher, but that was definitely very wrong. And now they're like it's so close to $1 now. I'm with
It
you
is
there.
nuts.
But let's see. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about is, what are your thoughts about like the biggest challenges facing beginners entering the crypto space, and what are some of the things that Divi is doing and building to help out with that?
So I think there's a lot of signal to noise ratio, and it's not more noise in this ratio than there is signal. So it's really hard, I think, for beginners to sift through and find the truly genuine, valuable projects. Um, we're hearing a lot of stuff on it on crypto on the news now. You see these big influencers shilling whichever coin pays them the most to shill it, and then of course the meme coin trend we just talked about is incredibly noisy, and incredibly risky. So I think risk and like lack of sophistication is a really big danger to new investors. Not that they can't become sophisticated. I'm not saying they're dumb people or anything. Everyone starts somewhere. So getting the educational barrier is much higher now than it used to be because there's so much going on in the space. You have DeFi, NFTs, meme coins, real coins. There's a million different directions you can go. So that's got to be overwhelming, I would imagine, for a newcomer. Um, one of the things that we're doing in our wallet is we basically have three of the top coins: Litecoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, and then we have Divi in there as well. And throughout the process of onboarding, we give you educational tips and things like that. It's a really smooth onboarding process if you download our mobile wallet. And once you get into the wallet, then we'll start introducing you to things. I mean, even like meme coins and stuff like that. Just information. So education is a big barrier to entry, but also ease of use is a big barrier to entry. A lot of times you're forced into like multiple exchanges just to get the first altcoin that you want to buy.
Exactly.
It's very difficult to understand like where's my money going? How is this money secured? Is it mine? Is it custodial? Whatever. So we're big proponents of non-custodial, fully decentralized usership. Our wallet allows for the user to retain access and control of their keys and their seed phrase, so that 100% of the time the money is 100% yours.
Got it.
And we do things like, we have usernames in the wallet. You can set an avatar. You can set it so that your friends can find you by your email, things like that, so that it feels like a more familiarized experience from start to finish. Whereas a lot of these exchanges and stuff, I can imagine, like, if I hadn't been doing this for so long, and I sometimes have to sign up for a new platform, it's scary. Like, it's
It is.
literally, there's so much going on, and there's 2FA and KYC and all this stuff, and you're like, I was just trying to buy some Doge, right? So, those barriers to entry are all things that we're focused on, as well as, of course, making money is a big part of this industry too. Right?
Yeah, that's a great point. I can totally relate with that. Like, I've seen some coins. I'm like, oh, okay, done my research. This is very promising, but it's on some random exchange. I'm like, do I really want to manage yet another one and deal with moving stuff over, security protocols like KYC,
Yeah,
whatever? It's such
it's
a
insane.
hassle, and that's the reason why I never went on the Binance Smart Chain side too, because things were popping off and there was a lot of opportunity there. But I'm like, now I have to like figure out a different like wallet and just have to manage things on a different ecosystem too, which is like,
Right.
is the hassle worth it? And that's why I didn't, even though I saw some projects I would potentially want to buy, decided not to.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are the same way. I mean, most people I know, they never make it off of Coinbase. Like, they just live there for their entire crypto career, and it's because they moving from that, which Coinbase is still a pretty intense like onboarding process.
Right.
Um, it's not very friendly, although they're doing what they have to do, of course, to comply with the regulations. But it makes it an experience that you're like, geez, I don't want to do that again, And yeah, so that's a huge barrier to entry. That's why a big philosophy of ours is like consolidating a lot of those things, and familiarizing a lot of those things. So of course, we'll ultimately add BSC and ERC20 support, um, among all of the popular, layer two and layer one chains, just to bring everything together in an experience that feels like something you've seen, and something that you can have confidence in.
One thing I wanted to ask about is just popped in my head is like Divi's approach to support for your
Yeah.
users, because when you talk about Coinbase and Binance and so forth, I mean they're like billion-dollar behemoths, but
Hmm.
people always complain about like month-long wait times and like support tickets. Like just for me, I take my time to write out really specific, like, hey, this is what I tried, this is why it didn't work. And then the support person finally comes on after 2 hours of waiting and they give me some generic response. I'm like, did you even take the time to read my explanation that would have like immediately told you what I'm going through? So yeah,
Yeah.
I can, I want to get your take on like Divi's approach to that issue.
It's one thing that we've actually had a focus on from day one. And initially, it was pretty much all community members helping us with support, and they would just do it in Telegram or
Hmm.
Discord. Of course, we've expanded upon that as the company has scaled, and now we still offer 24/7, 365 support, through Zendesk mostly now. Although you can still reach out to us on Telegram, but it's really important. Like, all of our support people are incredibly dedicated to the project. They understand everything from top to bottom, and they're wanting to help, right? And they're wanting to answer as quickly as possible and work with the devs to make things better if there's a glaring issue arises or what have you. I think the reason that a lot of these companies are struggling with support is because they literally blanket launch to every single country on earth, like, all of a sudden,
I see.
which no other industry in technology, or no other niche in technology, does that. You usually roll out to one jurisdiction, sometimes one state, in the United States,
Yeah, exactly.
or one country in the EU, and you get your stuff together, and then you get ready to roll out. Because rolling out to multiple countries isn't just about it working for those countries or having the languages translated. You do have to offer support, and you also have to offer support in the language that person speaks. So there's a lot to consider when you're like rolling out these products that just isn't being addressed, because the main thing in crypto is all about like speed to market, just like get it out. Who
Right,
cares? Ship
right.
it, which is, it's not a pragmatic approach, but and it's why things are so jumbled now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of like reputational risk too. Like if
Yeah.
they really piss people off, they're like, this is my a great amount of my money that I've saved up throughout life, and it's just stuck there for like 6 months, and that pisses people off. So
Yeah.
I think
And that
it's
sours people too, right? We talked
exactly.
about people getting sour on the industry. Nothing could be, but that's a problem. People don't even understand that like these exchanges are like banks, but they're unregulated and they literally don't care because they're essentially the gatekeepers of the industry. They have all of the leverage and we have none. And that's the problem. That's why decentralized exchanges need to be, more of a focus for this industry, and it's starting to happen.
Awesome. And I've got one question from the live chat. Actually, two. One is a shout out to Ryan Berg for the super chat. He's a supporter of Divi and of you.
Right.
And then John asked your plans, Divi's plan to launch to all the countries worldwide, or what's the current status of that?
That's a great question. And I kind of just addressed one piece of it just a minute ago. There's a lot of considerations that have to be made. First of all, the regulatory considerations, right? So we have to make sure that we're compliant in whichever jurisdictions. Right now, we just actually got a legal opinion back from our attorneys that looks amazing. Even in the US, we're looking really good. We're very
Awesome.
decentralized. Yeah, I'm very happy to see that. So that gives us confidence to roll out in those places. Now you have to get GDPR, CCPA, LDPR. Like there's a million privacy laws that you have to comply with.
Hmm.
Even if, I mean, we don't even collect that much data, just your email basically and your phone number and stuff, if you choose. But we still have to comply with that stuff. That's almost done. And then there is the support aspect. So we want to make sure that we're launching in places where we can support people.
For
So
sure.
Asia is probably one of the last places we'll launch because none of our team members speak any of
Yeah,
the
that
languages.
makes sense. That makes
But
sense.
Spanish is definitely there, and of course all the English-speaking EU countries. So we're really close. We just had a meeting about it this morning. I don't have an exact date, but it's really really on the horizon, very close.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, now I want to switch my focus to your opinion of Elon Musk, one of the richest guys in the world, has been tweeting about Bitcoin and Doge for like a couple years now. But most recently, he really inserted himself in the whole conversation. And it's just really interesting to see his whole journey from all the way back to now, and like how he used to be a sweetheart and then became a villain for some people, and now like yesterday or something he retweeted a little bit more positive stuff about Tesla's future with Bitcoin. So just wanted to get your high level thoughts on Elon Musk and his impact, his influence, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, he's I've gone back and forth on this. A lot of it seems like he doesn't take crypto very seriously. Like he feels like he can make a joke out of it. Like by tweeting about cummies and stuff like that during the Bitcoin conference. It's like, did he get paid for that? Is he doing it because he just wants to like make a joke out of everything? It's hard to say. What I can say is his influence is really dangerous for the people that we were just talking about, the people that are newcomers to the space that do have a lot of respect for him for whatever reason. He's a very impressive guy. He's running three of the biggest companies in the country, sending people to space. Like these types of things are really impressive. But then again, he's kind of treating people like playthings,
Right.
which I think is irresponsible for somebody of his prowess and his clout. That said, I think these things will resolve as regulations resolve because it's not just about making a mockery out of crypto. I think he's also trying to make a mockery out of the SEC, who he hates anyway, and he's been very outspoken
He
about that,
does,
right?
yeah.
So this is probably his way of kind of giving the middle finger to those guys as well by saying like, look how I can manipulate this relatively illiquid market comparatively with a couple of tweets, and you can't do anything about it. So I see that aspect of it too. I'm trying not to hate him and jump on that train, but it's getting harder.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, the SEC also said that he had to get his tweets like run through like some people to check them and whatnot, and he definitely was not a fan of that. Like he just wants his freedom to tweet whatever like stupid stuff comes up on his mind. So
Yeah.
that's
Because remember, he wanted to take Tesla private a couple of months ago, maybe a year ago now. Because he's so annoyed by the whole doctrine of capitalism, right? You have to adhere to the shareholders. every whim, and even if it doesn't make sense from a business perspective long term, because it's all about just increasing your bottom line month over month, year over year, and you have to disclose everything. You have to run your tweets by something. It is pretty ridiculous, right? So I get why he's frustrated with that, especially at his level.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so I want to ask you about your view of the markets, but we got some great questions that are semi-similar on the live chat that I want to talk with, especially since you mentioned Ethereum with your early crypto journey. So Eric asks that if ETH were to flip Bitcoin, what's going to happen like to the whole market, especially like the 4-year cycles and things like that?
It's
Or
a
do you
great
not think
question.
it's ever going to happen? That's also an answer too.
Um, Here's the thing: they're two different things, right? So Bitcoin will still have its cycles. It's still going to have, and it's going to do its halvenings and all that stuff every 4 years. Nothing will change fundamentally about Bitcoin. Nothing will change necessarily fundamentally about Ethereum. They're literally completely different use cases for blockchain.
Hmm.
So I think for that reason, they'll both exist in some sense, even whether one is the top or the other is the bottom. They still have a huge amount of dominance in the space. Will it happen? I don't know. I really try not to make those types of predictions. I think anything could happen. I think Bitcoin is a precursor technology, and inherently, it's the first of many. It's not necessarily the most efficient of those many. So, but it does have the best network effect. So it's going to be very difficult to flip that. But it's only what 11 years old. The internet didn't really gain popularity until it was about 30 years old. So, you know, keep your eyes out because you never know.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Thomas had a question too about Divi masternodes, but I'm going to save that for a bit when we get back to Divi in a sec. So, taking a step back and looking at the markets right now, right? We had that like early, not early, like mid-May big crash, and the weeks prior took us like from the mid 60,000s all the way down to about 30,000, and then we kind of chopped sideways for a few weeks, and now we're back to 40,000. And so, if we look at crypto Twitter and the sentiment on social media, right, there were a lot of bearish people saying like the charts look bad, like Head and Shoulders, Wyckoff, whatever, and then some people make some points on the fundamental side. Just want to get your take. Like right now that we're back at 40K, what's your overall sentiment and just view of your analysis of price action?
Well, first of all, I'm always long-term bullish on Bitcoin and on crypto in general. Um, I've always held, I do, take profits here and there, but I've always added to my positions during dips because I know long term that Bitcoin is still one of the probably best performing asset in the last 10 or 11 years, and it's got a
Exactly.
long way to go. That said, I did pretty much call not the top, of course, but I was pretty close to the top at 55K. I started telling people like, take your profits. Of course, it went 65, so I looked like an idiot for a little while, and then I looked like a genius. But that's how it goes, right? The market does what the market does. There have been like yesterday, we broke out of a wedge on high volume, and I thought that was bullish, and it was, and we've sustained 40K. We'll see what we sustain throughout the week and into the weekend. We usually see, a dump or a lot of volatility. So I like to see a little bit longer term stability in new prices, even if they're higher lows or whatever, before I say, okay, yeah, we're back in the bullish pattern. But we're definitely looking good for that reason. Outside the technicals, though, there's still a decent amount of fear in the market if you check like the fear and greed index, but it's rising back to greed. Um, I usually buy when it's the most fear because that's probably your best opportunity. So I was like trying to add as much to my position under 40K as I could,
Uh-huh.
and hopefully that was a good move. I think it will be long term. Sentiment's changing, but sentiment was way too high back when it was 65K. Everybody has laser eyes. Everybody's thinking, oh, I'm going to be rich forever. I saw influencers buying like crazy cars and people going nuts. And I'm like, yep, that's top vibes. That's going to be bad. because it's the same basic human behavior in every single market, in every single cycle. It doesn't matter if
Exactly.
it's crypto, stocks, forex, whatever. When you start to see your barber saying, "Yo, I just got some safe moon," it's probably a good time to take some profits off the table.
That's a great point. And me and my some community members were mentioning too, like before this big crash down to 30K, things were going pretty like easy, especially for newbies, right? Like maybe there were some minor corrections, like 5-10%, but for the most part, they're like, oh, this is easy. Like let's go on margin or let's buy like all my money on meme coins or whatnot. And so we're like, usually, I mean, it doesn't have to follow the past, but usually the market will like punish newbies or at least make them really scared and shake out some weak hands. And that didn't happen for like several months in our view. We're like everything's just so smooth, so easy. Like when's something gonna come? And then now it came. And a lot
Right.
of people were I remember like Logan Paul and a lot of other celebrities got in,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, the market needs to like punish them a bit. And then I saw on Twitter someone was in a group with like the celebrities, and they're like, "Oh, the top is in. Like, should we sell?" And there was a lot of fear lately because of how the market was moving for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tim Draper, in one of his books, he says, never confuse brains with a bull run because anything does well in a bull run. You could throw pretty much anything at the wall and it'll stick. And that's what we were seeing. Like you said, this constant number go up, slight, I don't even call them corrections, just mild volatility on the way up. And yeah, I mean, I think as soon as I saw Paris Hilton change to laser eyes, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. And of course it was.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great point. And I guess one of the biggest questions. So you mentioned that you want to see a little bit more like of continuous price action, but one huge debate that was raging on is whether or not this bull cycle is over. And I wanted to get your take on that.
That's a great question. I've even when I was cashing out some profits at 55, I still said that it will correct, but I don't think it's over. I still thought it had legs even back then. There's a lot of things we can look at. You know, there's the stock to flow model and a lot of technicals and things like that. But fundamentally, nothing's changed about Bitcoin. In fact, it's getting better with like the Taproot upgrade coming out, which enhances privacy, and that's a really great milestone. ETH is also launching EIP 1559. Sorry if I got
Exactly.
the numbers wrong. So there's a lot of fundamentally strong things still happening. There's a lot of projects still launching. Casper just launched. You know, there's Polkadot's about to do something big. I just read. So there's a lot of stuff like still being deployed. A lot of capital still being deployed. We still really haven't seen a massive like DeFi summer or a huge alt season. So we're still looking for that. So the cycle is still, I would say, if anything, some people call it like a super cycle. But yeah, I think even if we do go sideways a little longer for this summer, I think fall is going to be incredibly interesting for price action and for just the space in general.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. I've also said in my prior videos, I've taken a look at the strongest case for the bear and bull side, but I tend to lean towards the bull side in terms of this cycle's not quite over yet. But also wanted to get, I know you said you're not one for like price predictions for stuff, but I always like to ask people, like in terms of Bitcoin, there's a lot of different views, right? Like you said, stock to flow, and there's other models with predictions ranging between like 80K to 500K for this cycle, depending on the model or the analyst and whatnot. Just wanted to get your range and predictions.
I think 500 is too much for this cycle. I think that at some point Bitcoin probably will be worth that, maybe more even. But I think we will see a six-figure Bitcoin before the end of this cycle. Um, of course, everyone's just making their best guess.
Uh huh.
Anybody who tells you for certain, like, oh, it will be 300K, like they don't. No one knows. No one knows. No one has ever known in any in any asset which way it's going to go, right? But I do think just based on the technicals, the fundamentals, sentiment, and just generally all of the incredible things that are coming into the space, all of the institutional investment, all of the now we have El Salvador and geopolitical investment. I don't see why it wouldn't hit 100K before we see like a consistent bear.
I'm with you too. And I also, fun fact, I made a bet with one of my friends who is like not in this space that we would hit 100K with before the end of like 2022. So
Nice.
I'm with you there. Fingers crossed that it happens. I'm pretty confident it will. That's why I made the bet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
see.
you'll be right. It should at least tap it, if anything.
Exactly, exactly.
Well,
Just real quick, by the way, I know you mentioned stock to flow. Do you have any strong opinions about that model, or not really?
I mean, it has a lot of historic value. It seems to track almost exactly accurately. It's probably one of the. I mean, it's the model I follow personally. Um, it doesn't mean that it's infallible, but just I like to back test things and look at historic performance, and that's honestly it's one of the best models that you can follow. Again, nothing's infallible, but
Okay,
I like it.
awesome. Now I want to ask you a little bit about all the different like adoption and regulation that we see around the world, especially as it comes to governments, right? Like you said, El Salvador made it legal tender. A lot of Latin American countries are looking to follow as soon as possible. On the other hand, people were a little bit scared about like the G7 if they're going to say anything, most powerful nations in the world about crypto, Bitcoin, and so forth. So just wanted to get your high level views of different countries' approach to crypto, and then maybe I'll touch on a little bit specific topics afterwards.
Sure. So first of all, I want to say like all of the attention from the geopolitical sphere on crypto is actually really positive for this space. It is vindicating if you've been invested in this stuff for a long time because it says that okay, we have to take this seriously now. They tried to brush it under the rug for the longest time, and that's no longer an option, right? They have to do something now. So that's awesome. What they do with that though is the fear, right? So I'm not personally worried about the G7 because it took them like 2 years just to agree on like a simple tax regulation. Okay, it's not that simple, but still, it takes them years upon years. And they actually just, I read this morning, Biden made a 5-year treaty with the EU in order to kind of resolve some of the issues with import export and some of the fears around tariffs. But that doesn't resolve anything. It's a truce, right? It's just like okay, we'll talk about this later.
Got it.
So I'm not so worried about the G7. I am worried that we don't have enough people in government currently who understand this technology. I mean, they don't even understand Google and how a search works, let alone a complex algorithmic cryptocurrency. But again, there are better people coming in. I met a guy in Miami who's running for office, has a good chance at winning, who's pro blockchain, and there's a lot more people like us getting in. That's really important.
It is.
And then you have the like places like El Salvador that are benefiting very, very much so from the utilization of Bitcoin. But then you have what was the government body that was like, oh, I don't know about that. Oh, the monetary fund, EMF
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you do have these like auxiliary bodies that will try to step in the way, but at the end of the day, it's an unfederated currency. Like you can't really step in the way of it unless you shut off the internet for everyone at all times. So it will be a rocky road, but I think ultimately we'll get to the point where it's regulated in the way that makes sense for the technology.
You know what's really interesting that we're already seeing like small signs of countries getting involved because people were saying how the different cycles brought different types of participants, right? Like last cycle was retail full force coming in, and people were already talking about institutions, but they didn't really come in except for some like weird ones, some like really savvy ones. This cycle, institutions are coming in a lot more like noticeably, and the next cycle was supposed to be when the nation states come in, but we're already seeing a little bit of like nation state adoption of Bitcoin this cycle too.
Yeah, and we've talked about it for a long time. People that have been in the space for a long time have always said the developing nations will adopt it first. And that's exactly what's happening. We're seeing places where it really has an impact adopting it first. Of course, we don't need it in the United States necessarily, not today at least, because our money is still pretty much regarded as the global reserve currency. But in places where hyperinflation is rampant, or where they don't even have a currency, that's going to be where it jumps up, and that's what we're starting to see. It's really remarkable to see it actually playing out, and that's why I trust things like the stock to flow model, and that's why I trust fundamentals so much. Because if you just trust the plan and you just hodl through the waves of the storm, ultimately it becomes better and better and better, and it's changing lives globally. It's just an amazing thing to actually see what used to be a conspiracy theory turning into reality.
Yeah, and I was wondering what you think about like some countries or states going against Bitcoin and other ones like being embracing it, right? Like in
Well,
the or I was just gonna say in the U.S., like you have Wyoming leading the way, and then now Texas recently just said that they're going to be open for crypto businesses. And then on the nation state side, right, like China and India was a little bit against it, and then now we have other countries pro. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy going on, and wanted to get your view of that.
yeah, I always wonder, how much of that is like posturing and how much of it is legit, because you end up with like how many times has China banned mining and how many times has India banned crypto? You have to wonder like what's going on behind the scenes with those announcements, because they never really come to fruition
Right.
necessarily. Um, I think like I said, I think a lot of that is just posturing, political, geopolitical stuff that we'll never understand or have any visibility into. um, but ultimately, like I said, it's an unstoppable force. So how can you really? I mean, unless you regulate it out of existence, but then you just go somewhere else. You can't actually shut it down. So they're going to have to, even if it's a longer like timeline, it will have to be regulated to the point where it actually makes sense for the people who are using it, which there are a growing number.
Yeah, that's true. And it was really interesting to see how India, remember how they said that they're going to like ban everything. And then a report came out a couple of days ago saying that they're going to soften their stance after all, and it's not going to be a blanket ban anymore.
Right. It's every time. It's almost like, are they trying to stock up? Are they are they fudding so they can build up a huge treasury of Bitcoin? I know I'm just kidding, of course, but it makes you think.
Exactly, exactly. Awesome. And the last part I want to kind of ask about is, can you share some of the things that you're most excited about on Divi's roadmap right now? Like, what are you guys gonna working on, going to launch for the users?
Yeah. So in the very soon, weeks, we'll be launching what are called staking vaults, which allows you to actually stake your Divi from your mobile phone. So very, very excited about that. And then, of course, we'll start adding more coins. And then over the next few months, you'll start to see the fiat features come out. So for those that don't know about Divi or our wallet, it's a hybrid app. So it's a non-custodial, decentralized crypto app that enables a lot of the traditional finance features as well. So you'll actually start to see crypto to crypto swap, fiat on and off ramp, and actually bank accounts right within the wallet. So it goes back to that whole philosophy of consolidation, giving people a familiar place to literally manage all their finances in one place.
Got it. That makes sense. Um, and so this reminds me of the comment someone wrote earlier. Thomas asks, like, what would you say to the people that say Divi node with 25 to 30% APR is nice, but they prefer to buy some shit coins for more gains or put it on DeFi for like 300% APR?
It's funny. I just had a conversation about this with somebody who's deep, deep into DeFi, who actually was big on nodes, on master nodes back when they were as big as DeFi is now. Um, and even he says, you want to have like a dual strategy. You want to have the safe plays where you're staking or running master nodes, and you are getting like that 20% APY. Even some of the more like conservative plays like Celsius, where you're only getting 6 or 8%. And then of course you can gamble with the 300, sometimes thousands of percent DeFi projects providing liquidity. But you got to remember that those things are often short lived, right? So if you're not getting in and out of those things quickly, it's not sustainable. Of course, you can make tons of money, but you can also lose tons. Divi offers people who are looking for a more conservative approach, a more sustainable approach, a long-term approach to diversify their portfolio and have that guaranteed rate of return while you play, and you can always use your rewards to play those games.
Got it.
That I should also mention too that we are working towards a DeFi initiative that will allow you to bridge your Divi between the Divi ecosystem and the ETH ecosystem and BSC and the others, so that you can actually start to double and triple and quadruple dip your Divi rewards.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm definitely going to take a deeper look and dive into that myself when I make some dedicated content. So everyone watching, stay tuned. Going to definitely get some great explanations for you to learn more. Wait, sorry about that. What's the best place to go follow Divi and join the community?
Definitely start out on our website, diviproject.org. Join our Telegram and Discord. Telegram's at Divi Project. Actually, all of our social media, from Twitter to Instagram, etc., is all at Divi Project. So, come engage with the community. We're a very welcoming community. Happy to answer questions. You can tag us, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. And we love seeing new faces. So come say what's up.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, Nick? It was great to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think I froze here, and it's probably just my weird smiling face. But
it looks
so
good.
Sorry
though.
about that.
No, it's all good. It looks good. It's not like half open eyes with a weird. It looks good. It looks like
I got lucky
just,
there.
yeah, very lucky. It looks like you just have a static photo, but we can hear you fine. So it's all good.
Awesome. Like I said, absolutely can't tell you how much I appreciate you having us on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. As I said, follow us online at Divi Project, and I know you guys are going to cover us more, so I really appreciate you, allowing us to talk a little bit about the project here today. But anytime you want to have me back, I'm happy to have a conversation. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks, Nick, and thanks, everyone.